We're live. You know who is not live? Who is not live? I don't know who is not live. Anyway, folks, I am live. I am alive. I hope everyone's having a wonderful one. I am certainly having an all right one. I'm a little tired. I'm a little jaded. I'm a little, I don't know. I'm a little bit of everything. So yesterday, 9 hours, it was crazy. 4 hours of that was, talking to Asmongold and trying to walk him off this like far right cliff that he had seemingly jumped off of, took a dive off of, in terms of his commentary on what is permissible bigotry about Arabs and their status, or Palestinians. But in any case, oh, he got banned. I didn't realize he was banned. And regardless, it takes a ton for him to reconsider his stances. It's not about him reconsidering his stances. It's not. It's about people in the margins that are in his audience that are going to look at the situation differently after that conversation. What Asmongold said is not any different than Bill Maher, dog. What are you talking about? Bill Maher says it to a larger audience. The only difference between what Asmongold said and what Bill Maher says on a regular basis is that Bill Maher has 40 years of media training. So he knows not to say certain things so overtly, but the sentiment expressed is exactly the same. Like the language that Bill Maher uses is still like crafted around like liberal tent poles and liberal cultural signifiers enough that it can like masquerade as polite conversation when what he's saying is identical. I really do love you, man, but I question the efficacy of yesterday. He's a giant POS. That I get that there might be some people in the margins of his community, but if we're watching him through this arc, is very likely much on board already, and he just used you as a 3-hour attempt to rehab his image of truly incomprehensible shit he said and believes. Yeah, I don't see it that way at all. I don't think he rehabbed his image at all throughout that process. Here's the thing. I rate everything on a curve. That's number one. Number two, I have this understanding, especially as someone whose name is Hasan, who is like a white dude, but still someone who grew up in Turkey, someone who is Muslim, from a Muslim background. I know that the average person is unimaginably Islamophobic. I've dealt with it damn near a decade since I came to the United States of America. When I'm talking to a person individually and maintaining my composure and working through the steps, step by step, in explaining why someone is bigoted or someone's opinion is wrong or bigoted, offering historically relevant information, there's a reason for that. The reason is I might not change his mentality, okay? Other events might play a larger role in his mentality changing on this matter, but there are a shit ton of people who are watching him who are going to respond to that patience, especially respond to the way that I'm communicating, and most likely be more charitable to what I have to say on any number of different fronts, because that entire conversation is an information faucet for me, utilizing virtually every opportunity to talk about different aspects of how, for example, freedom of speech is revoked, things that a lot of people in his community might not be aware of. It's not like I agreed on his framing. It's not like I agreed to anything he was saying. Do you understand? Even if his perspective might not change on the matter, there's plenty of people in his community that are going to look at the situation differently. If I get 100 people in Asmongold's community to look at the situation a little bit differently, learn something new that they hadn't known, that's it. That's my goal. I've succeeded. If there was any moment where I was like conceding to his framing on the matter, that would be an entirely different conversation. I'm not going to go in front of like a Ben Shapiro type, for example, who I would categorize as simply different than Asmongold as well. But even if I were to go in front of a Ben Shapiro type and have like a relatively cordial conversation, which I would not be able to maintain composure in a similar capacity to Ben Shapiro. He's a professional speaking head. He's a talking head. But here's the thing. There's never going to be a world where I concede to his framing on anything, just like I did not concede to Asmongold's framing on anything either. And that's how you get comments like this. This debate perfectly illustrates my own internal struggle when it comes to forming a kind and normal view of Middle Eastern people. I come from Poland, raised in a conservative family. I watch a lot of Asmon, and I love Hasan's commentary and the way he presents his arguments with solid factual backing. Listening to this for 3 hours and seeing the insane amount of patience and collection Hasan has had throughout, and also listening to Asmon repeat his point that I used to share over and over again. Actually, okay, well, we don't have the rest of the comment. Couldn't it be said that his perspective gained more ground too? No, absolutely not. Because his perspective is already the most commonly held perspective in the United States of America. What more ground does his perspective need to get? Actually help me finally see how weak, stupid, and sad such belief is. Thank you, Hasan, for doing what you do. My life has become healthier because of you. There you go. People forget that streamers like you and Asmon are talking to stadiums full of people every day. A lot of minds can be changed and it's not too late for them. Yes, There's never a person who I think is above having their mind changed. Okay, of course, tactically speaking, there are certain people that I'm not going to be as charitable to. You know, a Ben Shapiro type, or a professional right-wing commentator, or someone in a position of actual power. Islamophobia is baked into every orifice of American society. In the post 9/11 universe, the United States of America needed to do this to justify its endless, bloody war campaign as they ravaged the entirety of the MENA region. And Americans responded to that. Chat, what are the laws for gays in Gaza? A gay man in Gaza, his life expectancy? Yeah, dude, anyone in Gaza, their life expectancy is pretty fucking short. That's why, you know, 50% of the entire Gaza Strip is under the age of 18. That's entirely because of Israel. But, you know, you can try to keep making a woman in Gaza her life expectancy. Yeah, I think you're making I suspect you're making an anti-Israel argument without recognizing that you're doing that. Yeah, the median age of people in Gaza is literally 15. To be honest, Hasan changed my opinion on it a little bit. Not the fundamental of what Asmon was saying, but my look at Palestine, hearing someone who heavily understands it and isn't some random Twitter user posting, hey, look at me, was pretty interesting. The fundamentals of what Asmon was saying isn't wrong. And I do mostly agree 100%, but Hasan was pointing out that you can't imply that here the country and its people aren't in a functioning state, be it because of Hamas, Israel, or outside forces. Hasan was pointing out that Palestine as a people and culture hasn't been able to be who they are for decades because they're consistently being bombed and killed. But in the past, when Palestinians were able to be themselves, this kill all non-believers and kills for fun and concept never existed in their culture. So he wasn't sure why Asmon was assuming that they would. I know some will say, well, they're doing it now. And the point I think Hasan was making is that they is a handful of people, and they're only doing it because there's no established ruling or government and do not represent the rest of the people. The majority of people aren't able to sort this out, stand up, or call it out because the country is constantly being destabilized. So the only thing most Palestinians' minds is how to survive the day. That's awesome that this person who still has like resilient Islamophobic sentiment baked into his argument is like so close to fully recognizing the situation. You know what I mean? But that's it. That is the reason why I try to have these conversations. Okay. And this is being on Reddit. It makes it so crazy. I think that's where the overall problem lay, was that it felt like Asmon was painting a broad brush across Palestine for the actions of a few crazies in other countries where the majority have no voice or say and are only thinking about when they will be bombed, not who's gay, and we need to get them. Be honest, there's no shot you actually think he cares that much about gay people in the Middle East as he claimed to yesterday. What? No. What are you talking about? What are you, fucking stupid? No, of course not. What? Bro, literally spotted white supremacist little shit. He needs to get permit. He's not going to get permit. Also, you guys have to understand something. Maybe if you're not like, maybe if you're not Muslim or Arab or Palestinian, you know, this might come as a surprise to you, but you can kind of get away with saying whatever the I'm shocked that he got banned to begin with. Like you can kind of get away with in mainstream media, especially with saying the most unhinged shit to not only fucking Muslims, about Muslims, directly about Palestinians, directly about Arabs, but also beyond that, you can literally say unhinged shit to defenders of Arabs too. So like it's legitimately not that surprising. What's surprising is that he got banned at all. For 45 to 47,000 people that were listening to Asmongold, this was the first time where they literally heard someone from start to finish describe that there is no inferiority in cultures, that like these guys are too busy fucking surviving to actually turn around and be like, oh, let's do a gay pride parade. You know what I mean? All of this stuff is basically just repackaged historical materialism. All of this stuff is basically explaining American foreign policy and how devastating that has been for entire regions, showcasing like that these places, when they had a crumb of autonomy, were able to actually have a more, I guess, Western focused, like liberally palatable fucking existence that all went away when fundamentalists came in to the fold as like the number one emancipators and liberators away from the influence of the treacherous, parasitic Western imperialist forces. All of this stuff is obviously important for these people to hear, okay? It doesn't matter what Asmongold's argument is. Like, even if a lot of people are going in there to be like, oh, Asmongold is cooking, he's going to destroy this guy. Like, ultimately, there is still a shit ton of people that hear that for the first time ever when they haven't ever heard about that. And their framework will change. To be a theory nerd and add on, the political sociologist Charles Tilly, whose most famous theories covered exactly this phenomenon, in that European society's linear timeline of cultural and capitalist progression cannot be applied to countries that have been colonized, specifically the global south, because they have not been afforded the same opportunity for linear progression. But even more, there's also the fact that the global south has been rejected from equity overall. There's also another side of this, which is why I like find at least like attempts towards socialization, higher degrees of socialization, to be truly unique in terms of development for even other countries that have like historically been undermined due to a number of different reasons, but specifically China. When you look at Chinese development, it's like insane to consider that they went from humiliation, ritualistic humiliation, and the grips of colonial violence to becoming a fucking superpower that is competitive in the global marketplace with the United States of America damn near overnight. When you look at even the USSR going from a rugged terrain full of potato farmers that were constantly in the grips of famine, and there was still plenty of famine in the USSR as well. Okay, before you blast me for that, going from that to being another fucking superpower, being another superpower that like beat the United States of America to the space race is crazy.